This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
You know that one will go. There. If I remember. Yeah. You shut off those up, light, shuts off all the TVs too. Gives all the power in here. Alright. Well, this is it. Y'all excited?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the last chapter that you have to look at a PowerPoint. So, super cool. Listen, we appreciate y'all showing up. So, I know, and I'm sure it's been mentioned through class, last year was the first year that we did a class since the county's taken over. Of course, the county just took over, but last year was the first year that me and Becca have started teaching these classes from start to finish. We built these classes from nothing. You know, I'm sure a lot of you have seen like the stock PowerPoints, what they look like, how terrible they are. We've tried to make these classes as fun and interactive as possible. So we appreciate y'all coming. I know we still got like a month left, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into these things. So this is it. This is the last PowerPoint for this class. Everything going forward is just going to be test prep stuff. So we'll take a final test on Tuesday for the last two chapters. And then everything else is just going to be hammering test prep and getting ready for national registries. At this point, you know, it's like I like to tell everybody, at this point, if you ain't got it, you just ain't got it, right? Like, we're going to do the test prep stuff and go through the questions. If you haven't been using that stuff, you need to be using it. It's going to really get you ready, right? So, like, that's going to kind of put you just over where you need to be. We give you a good amount of information. We got to take out a lot of the fluffy bull crap out of this class. I feel like people that make these PowerPoints like have to justify their existence, so they just throw in a bunch of unnecessary bull crap just to be like, oh, look at all this stuff that I did. I'm like, yeah, it's all useless. So we try to cut out a lot of fluffy bull crap that just, you know, justifies whoever's job and just give you what you need. With that being said, those little extra bumps here and there of information that you get from taking those test preps are really going to kind of put you over the little threshold of information that you need. So work on that stuff over the next month. We're still waiting on freaking John to text us back and let us know when he's going to be here for this test. So once I know, I'll let you know. We've sent him 2 emails now. I know they were pretty busy. They were doing like state inspections down in Humboldt County the other day. And they were running around. So yeah, once I know, I'll let you know. But yeah, this is it. After tonight, the only other big test you're going to have is our final test and then national registry. I think the test on Tuesday is like 25 questions. It's not a big test. So.
I hate
Don't like the small tip.
No.
You're like, you missed less. Freaking you get a worse score.
So after this Saturday, we're not doing any more Saturday classes, right?
No, we're still do Saturday. I think it's, I have to look at the
23rd. And then the second.
Well, yeah, the 23rd.
Oh, yeah. So the 23rd, we're doing class. The 6th, we're doing class.
Okay.
But the 23rd, when we take our like final written test, is going to be the Saturday that, like, once you're done with the test, everybody freaking skedaddles because it's Memorial Day weekend. And then the next weekend is when we'll do like the cookout, like the graduation and all that stuff. And it's probably going to be that Saturday that we do the mass casualty thing too. I'll talk to Becca and make sure we're good. But we're going to be pretty hammered that week because we're going to be freaking moving that week. So we're going to be moving all the first part of that week and then coming in here on Saturday. So
You need a trailer or you're offering for it.
I've got like freaking 6 trailers.
All right.
I do appreciate it. I got
I'm just
freaking
checking
like
some 18.
3 horse trailers and freaking God almighty. Honestly, we've been like super blessed with all the people that are like willing to come and help us freaking get out of this situation. So pretty cool. So yeah, any questions for a start? It's gonna be pretty short. We'll probably run through medic test tonight. Probably do a medic test just because of how short this chapter is and we're not doing a test. So cool. So we're going to talk about highway safety and vehicle extrication. So this is like a very beginner introduction to this stuff. Focus more on the highway safety than the vehicle extrication stuff. I'll give you a lot of information about the vehicle extrication just because they like to ask like some safety questions about it. But if you want an extrication class, we can do that later on. I've done like a lot of extrication classes. I've been to like heavy rescue extrication classes, like school bus disaster extrication classes. Like you can really deep dive off into this extrication stuff. So we're not going to do that today. This is going to be basic information because typically most EMS services don't even have extrication equipment. We carry a combi tool. And then HGH does all of their own rescue stuff. Their fire department doesn't do their extrication. HGH does all theirs. So they're pretty big on it down there. But like Elko County doesn't do any of it. So it really is dependent on where you work at as to how much of the stuff you're actually going to see and or do. If you work for an agency that's like fire and EMS, obviously you're going to be doing more of it, but they'll train you on that if you ever get to that point. Frick. It would help if the thing was on. All right. So highway emergency operations. So being on the highway is like a pretty big deal for us. The speeds out here like 80 miles an hour. Obviously, everybody goes like 90 miles an hour every goddamn where. So they're very dangerous situations for us. Everybody likes to record everything and be on their phone and like freaking be looky-loos. Well, typically people like drive to the lights instead of away from them. So like try to stay out of like pinch points and kind of those positions where you can get hit by cars. Try to stay away from those positions as much as you can. Obviously, there's going to be some moving around on scene that you have to do. But if you can stay out of those positions as much as you can, you're better off because people will typically run into the back of emergency vehicles on scene because they just kind of like look and look and look and, you know, you kind of go where your eyes take you, right? So be aware of your surroundings and then try to limit apparatuses in these like highway incidents. Like I don't need 8 fire trucks for one vehicle overturned in the median, right? Like you're just causing congestion. You're causing more people to look at you. Like it's just an unnecessary amount of people for a scene that one fire truck can handle. So keep that in mind. Try to avoid blocking lanes for an excessive amount of time. Don't be afraid to shut down the interstate, but understand when you're dealing with like major thoroughways, shutting down an interstate can cause a lot of issues. Out here, it's not really that big of a deal because it's I-80 and you know, you might shut down the interstate for 30 minutes and might only have, you know, 50 cars behind you. If you're ever working somewhere like downtown Reno or, you know, some sort of Vegas, Atlanta area, and you go to shut down interstates, now in 5 minutes you've got a 10-mile backup, right? So keep that in mind. The first arriving units will be your blocking units. So when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, you know, Becca was saying like you pull the ambulance around. You do eventually. But if you're the first one on scene, you need to block the scene. So even if you're in the ambulance, you're going to use your ambulance as a blocking device. You're just not going to put anybody in that ambulance until you have other responders on scene that block your ambulance, right? So the best way to do this, and I'll show you some pictures, is to shoot your vehicle to where if somebody hits it, it shoots the person that hits you, it shoots them away from your accident scene. So if your accident scene's off to the right, you're going to point your vehicle left. That way, if somebody comes in and hits you, it shoots them off to the left and doesn't shoot them down into the middle of your accident scene and cause more people, you know, to get hurt. And then we want to try to open up the lanes as quick as possible. I know NHP loves coming out here and freaking kicking stuff out of the roadways and like freaking like, oh, the interstate's open. If it's not safe to do that because of stuff going on, don't let them. Tell them to frick off. Like, they might get pissy about it, but I don't freaking care. So vehicle extrication is going to be the most common technical rescue event in the United States. So when I say this, I mean, like, you know, you have like high angle rescue, low angle rescue, you know, trench rescues, like all these different rescues. Extrication is going to be your most common type of rescue that you're going to see and or be a part of. There's a lot that goes into these. Safety is a big concern. So if you're ever involved in one of these events, if you're ever involved, whether you're on the extrication side or the patient care side, or if you're a mixture of both, try to get familiar with all your equipment. Here, like I said, we have the combi tool, but there's only like a handful of us that have actually used extrication equipment. And so like Eureka County, like Crescent Valley doesn't even carry extrication equipment. So if they're on the interstate out here, they'll call Battle Mountain out to do extrication because Battle Mountain has extrication equipment, right? So like some places just don't carry it. Some people don't have it. I don't know if you know how much this stuff costs, but like one of those tools is like 30 grand. So the combi tool is good, but it's like, it's good at a lot of things, but not great at anything. So if you buy like the individual, like spreaders, cutters, ram, you buy those individually, now you're $100,000 in equipment, right? So a lot of places don't have this stuff, and then if they do have it, it's like really old hydraulic style equipment that's like super heavy and cumbersome. So it's kind of a pain in the butt.
We have both sets.
Yeah.
On the old hydraulics. We have the newer version.
Yeah, we have them here. The hydraulics are good if you're dealing with like real heavy machinery. They seem to have a little bit more oomph to them. But now, especially now, I've yet to run into a situation that the battery-powered equipment could be.
Yeah.
People still like to stand 10 toes on that hydraulic equipment. Whatever. I'm not in charge. I don't make decisions. But I have cut 1 or 40 people out of vehicles, and I have yet to run into a problem using battery-powered. It's a lot lighter. It's a lot easier to move around. So when it comes to blocking highways, this is what I'm talking about. So if you notice, this fire truck right here is pointed away from what I'm assuming is the incident right here. So that's kind of what you're doing, is pointing away from this incident. That way, if somebody comes down and T-bones or lines up the back of this fire truck and smacks the back of this fire truck, it throws them off to the left instead of pointing it the opposite way. And if you have a car over here on the right side in this ditch, now when that car comes down and hits that fire truck, it's going to throw that car directly on top of you. So typically what you'll see is, especially out here, we'll beat a lot of people on scene. If it's in town, the sheriff's department comes with us. If it's out on the other side of Valmy, obviously the sheriff's department's not coming with us, and we're going to beat the volunteers from here at Valmy 9 times out of 10, right? Because we're in the ambulance. We're here. We don't have to go to the station and pick anything up. We just go to the scene. So typically what you'll do is you'll park your ambulance in the back of whatever accident scene that you're in, point your ambulance away from it, and then once the fire trucks or the highway patrol or county deputies, whoever show up next, then you can reposition your ambulance to the front so that you can gain patient access, right? Once they are there, you do need to move your vehicle. You want to reposition your ambulance so that you're the most protected vehicle out there, because you don't want to be in the back of an ambulance with somebody and somebody come down and freaking peen smack you at 80 miles an hour. You're not going to be having a good day. So another really good exercise, and this really isn't super applicable down here, but what they'll do is they'll line these fire trucks, like these 2 red fire trucks, they'll line them up like that to kind of funnel everybody, right? So if you notice, the back fire truck is lined up, taking 2 lanes of traffic out there, and his job is just to funnel everybody away from this accident scene as far away as he can get them. So you'll see that a lot on these multi-lane highways. Again, out here, it's not really super applicable. You're more than likely going to see the second picture, because even out here, the interstates are only 2 lanes, right? So that's typically what you'll see out here is the second picture, where you're just trying to get them over into the opposite lane, whatever side of the interstate that may be on. But protection is key here. Also, a big thing to note with these, everybody's running around with these high-vis vests on. Freaking cops, ambulance people, freaking firefighters. I will tell you, there was a firefighter in Atlanta that got hit by a car on an accident scene, and they were trying to argue that he didn't have his vest on, and so they weren't going to give him any. They will try their best not to pay you if you don't have your stupid vest on. Like, it's going to do something to save your life. If they didn't see the giant goddamn fire truck and freaking police cars everywhere, I don't think that vest is what's going to be there to save my life, right? Like, but they will 100% try to get out of paying you if you don't have the vest on. So do as I say, not as I do, because are they back? Do as I say, not as I do. I don't wear the freaking vest because it scratches me on my neck and I don't like it. So, it likes to scratch my neck a lot, so I don't like wearing the things. But again, do as I say, not as I do. Wear your vest, because if you do get hit by a car, these insurance companies will try their best not to pay you if you don't have this stupid thing on. So when you exit your vehicle, you want to exit into as safe of a zone as you possibly can. So for me, when I park on the interstate, I like to exit, and then if the nose of my truck is out in traffic, I'll go around so that I can see traffic come at me. I'll go around the back of the ambulance, so I know if anybody's coming at me and I can get out of the way if I need to. That's typically how I'll get out. I won't go around the front because now I have my back to traffic and I can't see what's coming in behind me. So make sure you look, see if you have any traffic before you open your door. You don't want your door to get taken off. The appropriate PPE is very important. Like I said, if you don't have your vest on, they'll try not to pay you. So flares or traffic cones? Right. Just go out there and start throwing flares in the freaking desert out here. Like, let's see how quickly we can piss off BLM. What? So, most of the fire trucks out here carry traffic cones, because typically in freaking Nevada desert, flares aren't really the safest thing in the world to carry around. But the lighted disc work really well. Those are like typically used for like setting up landing zones for like helicopters, but they weren't really good as like warning devices. Again, be cognizant that people run in the back of fire trucks all the time. So like these freaking traffic cones and these little freaking light up discs and stuff like that probably aren't going to help much. People just like to run into our stuff. So be mindful of that. So when it comes to night operations, we want to try to shut off our headlight. So there was a study done like a handful of years ago where they talked about night operations and that light, they call it light fatigue, where when you get on scenes for these emergency responses, you got all these lights going off all over the place. People just kind of like, I guess, get fatigued to the light and don't pay attention. And that's how most of these incidents occur where like fire trucks and ambulances and stuff are getting ran into. One of the big things they did say in that study was that people coming into an accident scene from in front don't see those emergency lights because now everything's equipped with these freaking extra bright LED lights and all that stuff. So you're just blinding the piss out of them the whole way there. And they don't see you until they're like right on top of you. Now they see all the emergency lights. So turn your headlights off, especially if you're like on 305 or something where you have traffic coming into you. Turn your headlights off so that they can actually see your emergency lights. And any other like white lights. So if you have like your scene lights and stuff, don't point them back into traffic, right? Like don't have your rear scene lights on, like shooting down the road like that. Who the fuck is that guy? Don't have your rear scene lights on, just shooting randomly down the road when your accident scene's off in the ditch to the right. You know what I mean? Like you can have your right scene lights off or on, but don't be shooting white lights back at people. I don't know if you've ever opened up. I don't know if you've ever opened up the back of the doors of that ambulance if y'all been riding with us. Y'all haven't been here at night, but especially that new ambulance that we got. Those scene lights on that bastard will blind the piss out of you. And so if you do that in the middle of traffic, you're gonna blind the piss out of somebody. Leave your amber lights, red lights, blue lights on. Depending on where you are, like Michigan has like green emergency lights. So depending on where you are, like some of the emergency lights might differ a little bit. So just keep that in mind. You might get somewhere like around here. I don't know of anybody that uses green emergency lights. I don't even think the tow truck companies and like DOT, none of that. That's all like amber lights. So
That blue ass, right? Too.
yeah, they got those bright blue lights.
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah. But like Michigan has like these like freaking bright green lights. They're really weird, but that's what they use for like their emergency vehicles. It's kind of cool. But traffic boards are great. But chances are by the time you get there, by the time freaking DOT actually gets there to set one of those things up, everybody's gonna be long gone. So they're great if you can use them. You're probably not gonna be able to use them. So when we talk about vehicle extrication, there's a bunch of different like phases to this extrication process. So preparing for the rescue. So know your equipment, know its boundaries, know what you need, right? If I roll up and, you know, somebody got smacked in the driver door and they just can't get their door open, I don't need to sit out every goddamn extrication to look at. Chances are I'm probably just going to have them crawl out of the back. They're going to be like, my back hurts. And they're like, dang, that's crazy. Can you come out this door over here? So keep that in mind. Size up the situation. Look at everything that you're doing before you start. So one of the most like memorable incidents that we had a vehicle go up under an 18-wheeler trailer all the way to the trunk. And when I got there, I was like looking, found the guy. The fire department was like, oh, we need a heavy wrecker. We're going to have to lift this thing up, and we're going to have to put struts up under it. We're going to have to do this, and we're going to have to do that. And I was like,
Is that the one that you crawled underneath?
yeah, I crawled up under the truck, and I was like, y'all could just open this door. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, literally just open this door. You know, you can take the guy out, right? So, like, look at your entire scene before you start making decisions. See what's going to be the easiest way. We don't need to turn this into any more of a complicated situation than it needs to be. So think simple, do simple. Extrication is not that complex 90% of the time. There are complex extrications. Most of them are not. Most of them you can get done in 1 or 2 tools. So recognizing and managing hazards is a big one, right? So if a vehicle gets hit in the front, the biggest hazard you're going to have to worry about is hot exhaust and gas. So they puncture a fuel line, start dumping fuel on some sort of hot exhaust up under the hood of that thing. Now you're dealing with a fire. If you have electrical up under the hood that starts arcing out and you've got leaking fuel, now you're dealing with a fire. Another big thing is, I don't know if anybody's ever stepped in gas or oil on the interstate, but it's pretty freaking slippery, right? So like, pay attention to what you're doing. Don't just go out there ice skating all over the place. You're carrying around this freaking 20-pound extrication tool and you freaking slip on some gas and now you're a part of the problem, right? So recognize your hazards, look for any leaks around the vehicle. Especially out here, a big concern is you have a hot vehicle that runs off into the sage bush. I don't know if you've ever seen a vehicle catch stuff on fire up under it, but I have run many vehicle fires where they just stopped in a bad place on like pine straw or whatever, and it catches the stuff on fire from like hot exhaust. So keep that in mind. Stabilize the vehicle prior to entering. There's 100 ways that you can stabilize a vehicle. The easiest way is just go around and bust all the tires. It's a very simple way, very effective. But they have like step chalks that you can use. You can flip them upside down instead of like trying to do a little step side, flip them upside down, kick it up under the tire, right there behind the tire. They have like regular little 4x4 chalks you can toss up under the tire. Freaking rock works great. If you don't have none of that, because I'm not a rescue truck and I just have an ambulance, rock works really good. Bust the tires, throw a rock up under it. Works fantastic. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to be like dicking around inside of a car, and the next thing you know, you're rolling down a freaking hill in the backseat of this car. So, and then you need to gain access to the patient. So, when you gain access to a patient, you want to think about the easiest way to get this patient out. So, another very memorable incident that I had, a lady ran her car, and around here you see them. They're not as common, but down in Georgia, they're like retaining walls, their medians and stuff like that were made out of like tightly wound steel wires. So like you would have like the concrete barriers, but if you're out in like South Georgia, you have these like steel wires that run down the middle of the interstate, and it stopped people from like hitting concrete. And when they would run into it, it would just kind of like wrap their vehicle up. So it like took out some of the energy, so the accident didn't end up as bad as them running into concrete. Problem is like your vehicle could get all wrapped up in this freaking steel. So we had a young lady run her car off in the ditch, get wrapped up in this like steel freaking wire stuff. And I was just a little firefighter at the time. Well, the assistant fire chief showed up and he's like, we need to cut the roof off of this car. And we need to pop all these doors and we need to do this and we need to do that. And I was like, why don't we just see if she can crawl out of the passenger side? Because the passenger door was wide open. Like, just come out. And he was like, no. She said her back hurts. And I was like right now his car isn't totaled. We cut the roof off of it, it's going to be pretty totaled. So we're conversing about this. And I was like, all right, man, like you're the boss. So I started going to get education equipment. The ambulance showed up. Luckily, the ambulance was smarter than your average bear. They walked up and was like, hey, how are you? And she's like, oh, my back just hurt. They're like, cool, can you come out this door right here? And she was like, oh, yeah. She crawled out. So, like, think smart, think simple. Like, don't make things complicated on yourself, right? The more extrication you do or the more complicated you make this, the more risk that is inherently involved in it, right? So try to keep things simple. I've brought people out of the back seats. I've brought people out of the passenger seats.
Windshield.
I've had somebody crawl out of a windshield before, right? Like, think about how to make things easier before you start dragging all these tools out. So if you're in what is known as the hot zone, which is where the extrication is happening, you need to have your appropriate PPE on. That is to include helmets, some sort of protective layer for your legs and your arms, and gloves. Some people have like specialized like jumpsuits that they put on for extrication. So people at the fire department, like they wear entire bunker gear for extrication. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're a volunteer around here, Valmy, Golconda, Eureka, I don't freaking care. If I show up on scene and you're running around in freaking flip flops and shorts, cutting on cars, and you end up with a giant freaking laceration on your arm, the first thing I'm gonna do is tell you that you're an idiot. I'll stop your bleeding, but I'm gonna inform you how stupid you look in the process. Because if you would just put your freaking jacket on and your pants on and not try to be the cool guy with freaking flip flops, then we could have avoided this whole problem. Now you're a part of the problem. Now I got to mitigate two issues. Where are your stuff? Glass is a big one. I've cut myself on glass busting windows. I've tried to gain access. I've used my little scissors and hit a window and cut my hand open. Like, it's very easy to do. So wear your stuff. I was in a situation where there wasn't a fire truck there and I needed to get access to this guy because he needed a tourniquet. So like that was a risk I was willing to take. But wear your stuff. And of course, I have his vest. Another big thing here is, especially when you go to cutting on cars, that metal that you are cutting on gets really, really sharp, really, really fast. Because all you're doing is taking that steel and smushing it. And so by the time your little cutters get through the A post or B post or whatever, it turns it from about that big around to about that big around, and it's super sharp. So if you are working in this area, be mindful and try not to cut yourself on it, because I'm going to talk about you. So size up your scene. Let people know, and I say this about vehicle extrications, house fires, it doesn't matter. If you're the first responder there, let people know what they're coming into. Don't let people come in blind. Talk to them on the radio. No, I don't need your 5-minute freaking explanation about how the sky's blue and sunny outside. I got a 6-mile-an-hour wind from the west. Like, but let people know what's going on. It's very simple, very sweet. Hey, I got a 2-car accident. I've got one person entrapped, one vehicle on its side. When you get here, set up for extrication. Very short, very sweet. Let them know what they got coming in. Let them know what you need. And then request resources early. We have a really bad habit in this county due to powers that be that won't send the fire department to a lot of stuff that they should be sending the fire department to. So I've gotten in the habit now that I just request them automatically. So do that. Make sure the people that you need are coming. Same thing with like your air resources. If you get paged out to an accident and it sounds like it's going to be bad, go ahead and start your air assets, get them coming early. And then recognize and address any hazards early. Whether that be cutting the battery cables to a car. If you do ever find yourself cutting the battery cables to the car, make sure you take a chunk out of it. Don't just cut it in one place, cut it in 2 places and leave a couple of inches between the cuts. That way they can't touch and arc. So little simple stuff like that can save you some issues on the long run, because if those start to arc, now you have a fire. So we carry fire extinguishers, but a fire extinguisher is only going to get you so far. No. And then patient safety. The biggest thing when it comes to patient safety is like trying to keep them calm, whatever that looks like. We had a young lady go sideways into a guardrail. The guardrail come through her door and like pinned her legs inside. It took the fire department almost 45 minutes to get her out of the vehicle. My sole job for that entire call was to sit in the passenger seat and just talk to her, right? That may be what you get tasked to do. Very early in my career, I had a young lady that had 3 kids in the car. Somebody pulled out in front of her. She T-boned him. One of the kids broke his neck. He was dead. The other 2 kids were pretty messed up. She had a broken femur. The lady that pulled out in front of her was trapped in the car down the road. Well, everybody wants to play with the extrication, right? So every firefighter on scene went running down to this car to like extricate this lady. I was also a firefighter at the time. The only thing I did was go sit on the kick panel with the other lady's car and just talk to her, make sure she stayed calm, right? That's part of it. You have to keep the patients calm. The more excited they get, they can hurt themselves more. Keep them calm, talk to them, let them know what you're doing. They have like aluminized like rescue blankets, sheets, blankets of any sort work. If you're cutting on these cutting on these cars, you need to cover your patients up with blankets. Don't go busting windows out of cars, and you got a freaking patient sitting there, and you just walk up there and bust a window out, and now you got glass all over your patient, because now you're going to look like a ding ding, right? So let them know. Me and my dad was on a extrication one day, and one of the other firefighters, like my dad was leaned over like doing something, and one of the other firefighters like ran up and bust the window out, and like all his glass fell down on top of my dad, and he was like busting glass and just kind of like stared at the guy, and the guy was like just like walked off. Let people know that you're doing this stuff, right? Sheets, blankets, anything that you have, cover the patients with before you go just busting windows out. That went south. Because freaking Joe's Caramzino's over there now. Freaking.
Got love one. TJ's over there.
Yeah. It's fine. So, when it comes to like vehicle extrication, access, one of the biggest dangers is airbags. Any undeployed airbag is a risk. So, new vehicles have goddamn airbags freaking every goddamn where, right? So they have them in the side, they have them in the doors, now they come in the seats, they have them in the dash, freaking everywhere. They're great. It works great to blow dust all over the inside of the car and try to save you from a little bit of injury. What it also does is you're in the middle of like doing patient care, and the airbag in the passenger dash didn't go off, and you're in the middle of doing patient care, and that bastard bust. So these things come out at a couple of 100 miles an hour. They're very hard, very fast. So if you're sitting in that passenger seat and that bastard goes off, it's not going to feel good. It's probably going to ring your bell. So keep that in mind. So it doesn't take much to set off an airbag. So you have these little sensors in the bumpers of cars and on the sides of cars and stuff. I can walk up and kick that sensor and set off an airbag. It doesn't take a lot. Problem is if something happens, they get in an accident, that sensor malfunctions or whatever, the airbag doesn't go off, and then you're inside doing stuff with the patient, and the airbag goes off, it's gonna hurt. So keep that in mind. When you're doing extrication, especially, they call it like the peek and look. Make sure you're looking under these kick panels. So you have different parts to a car when you're talking about extrication. So you have A post, which is the post around your windshield. You have B post, which is the post that typically like your seat belt is attached to. You have C post, which is your back windshield. That's your standard car. Obviously, as it goes on, you know, you have a bigger vehicle, you can have more posts. But your typical car is an A post, B post, C post. So anytime you go to cutting on one of these posts or anywhere in these posts, you need to be looking before you cut. So on top of like those airbag that are in those posts, there's like gas chambers for your seat belts and stuff. And if you puncture one of those while you're cutting on this car, it's not going to be real fun. It can become a projectile, and it can be a problem. So it's very easy. The fire department loves to like monetize things and like make tools cost more money because they're like, oh, this is our peak tool, and it's literally just a screwdriver. So you can take a screwdriver, a knife, whatever you got, just pop that little plastic panel off. It's very easy. They're like little plastic grommets that hold it in. But you go in there, pop that little plastic panel off, look behind that panel. That way you know where you need to cut. Don't go cutting on cars without looking. before you cut. Because again, undeployed airbags, you cut one of those things, it's going to explode. And if I have a piece of extrication equipment in there, and that thing explode, now you just shot your extrication tool at the top of the patient's head. So pay attention. This powder substance that are in these airbags, so it's cornstarch and talcum powder. Sometimes it's sodium hydroxide. So this powder is more of an irritant than anything. What it's actually there for is to preserve that bag. So they put it in those airbags to make sure they don't break down and start like falling apart, because hopefully your airbag doesn't have to come out for many, many years. So they put these like preservatives in here so that your airbag doesn't like fall apart in its little casing. So when it's time that it needs to be used, it still freaking works. So that stuff is very, very, it's very irritating to the skin and eyes. So when these airbags go off, the most common injuries that you're going to find with these are just like the irritation injuries. So if somebody just kind of catches like a little small bump and the airbag goes off, help wash their eyes out. You can just use like normal saline or like sewer water or whatever. Have them lean over and just try to wash their eyes out a little bit, because that freaking powder gets everywhere. You'll get like little like carpet burn, like burns on their arms and stuff. Typically it's like on the inside of their arms, because people drive like this and the airbag goes off and it just scratches the inside of their arm. So you get little carpet burns and stuff, but that powder gets in there and it like really burns. So it's not really that fun. So wash out any of that stuff. Just try to get that powder off of them. So this is also a very big hazard. So these are shock absorbers. They put them in the bumpers of vehicles. They put them in the bumpers of vehicles to try to like absorb some of the impact from like front or rear crashes. These things they're filled like gas chambers right here. In an event of like fire or this thing like building pressure from heat for whatever reason, this thing can explode. So keep that in mind as you're approaching these vehicles. Try to approach them at like a 45-degree angle. Don't approach them directly in front or directly behind, because if one of these shock absorbers are loaded and it explodes, it will turn that bumper into a projectile. There's been several cases where firefighters have actually lost legs from these things exploding and sending bumpers at people. So again, another big hazard. Just be mindful of that. You don't see a lot of these anymore because they are pretty dangerous. They'll typically like change the systems in these now, but you still have vehicles with the shock absorbers on there. So just be aware, be mindful, try to approach vehicles at a 45. That way you're not in a direct line in case they do have these and the bumpers come off. So a couple of other big hazards to be mindful of. Power lines. Do not touch that vehicle. Do not get near that vehicle until you can 100% verify that the power has been shut off in that area. If they do have a vehicle, or if you do have a power line laying on a vehicle, your little intercom on your ambulance, get on that, let the patient know to sit still, do not move, do not get out of your vehicle, don't touch anything, just freaking sit there until the power is verified off. These high-powered lines, that red line right there, so in a lot of extrication, now this is like the peak and look thing that I was talking about. So a lot of these electrical vehicles, all the high-powered lines like run in the panels of this car. So wherever the charger is and wherever the battery is, a lot of these high-powered lines will be up in like your A post or like C post. Every once in a while, you'll see them up, in your B post and C post. Every once in a while, you'll see them up in your A post, depending on like where the charging systems are for these cars. But a big thing to do, and pretty much every electric car that you have now, this little orange tag right here is a fire department cut tag. And so that tells you where to cut that line so that it kills the high voltage system for that vehicle. The bad thing is, with Tesla, all of their stuff is ran on power. And so once you cut that line, now you got to try to figure out how to get in the freaking car. People have been stuck in vehicles. I actually had a Tesla catch on fire not that long ago. Shut the power system down on the car, and the guy couldn't get out of the car. He ended up burning up in the car. So it's not fun. Do not recommend these electric vehicles. You can save the environment some other way, but these things suck. Yeah. Yeah. Freaking days. Yeah. Yeah. If one of these things catches on fire, the way that they were mitigating this in a lot of places is tow truck companies have started building like retention ponds in the back of them, and they'll just go out there and dump these bastards in ponds and let them sit there for like 24 hours because there's not enough freaking water on these fire trucks. You're not going to put it out. So, but right here, so this is like A post. This is like your B post, C post maybe, depending on how this post setup is. But typically this is like your C post right here. But if you look back here in the back of the vehicles, they'll have like a little cut, like that little orange tag. It has like the little scissors on there, or cutters on there. That's to tell you that it's safe to cut that in that spot, so it cuts the power off to that car. Yeah. If you're able to gain access to the car, and don't even worry about this right now. This is more or less like if the car, you're not able to gain good access to the car and you need to start like a vehicle education, or like you're worried that the batteries are still charged and maybe they're punctured or something like that. And you're trying to like kill the power to the system so that, it doesn't start a fire or whatever. Yeah. But this is like a last resort thing. Like you don't want to have to cut these power cords if you don't have to. But if you're working on this car and you're like cutting into this car, you need to try to find this and cut this. Because like with our like normal cars, you just go up under the hood and cut the power line. With these, you have to like find them in these like kick panels. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. Another big thing to worry about is these big green boxes, which are like just giant electrical boxes. Right. So if somebody runs into these, same thing with like natural gas lines. Like I calling a lady that ran into a natural gas line one day, and I got there and she's in there smoking a cigarette. We were like, what the? Put it out. She's like, what's the problem? Like, I'm fine. And I'm like, you literally ran into a gas line. Like, please don't blow us up. Yeah. So like, keep that in mind. These things are very, very high voltage. So if the power didn't get killed when they ran into it, you need to make sure you don't get close to it until you know the power's out. So when it comes to vehicle fire, 15, 20 pound, like ABC dry extinguishers, they can get you by for a couple of minutes. You're not really going to do a lot unless you can gain access. So the only thing these fire extinguishers really does is just like deoxygenate the fire to try to put it out. If you can't actually gain access to the fire, you're not really going to accomplish a lot. But you can try to shoot it into the grill if you can't get the hood open. You can try to like angle this thing up under the car and shoot it up into the hood that way. But really, you're just trying to like keep the fire down until you can gain access up under the hood, or until the fire department gets there and can gain access. Do not fight fires without appropriate PPE, because that's bad. Semi-truck tires like to explode near you. It's not fun, and your wife yells at you. So, when it comes to stabilizing vehicles, so right here next to this white car, those like 2x4 looking things, that's called a step chalk. So a reason why, because it looks like steps. Self-explanatory, right? So there's two ways to use this. If you're lifting a vehicle, you can kind of like put it in. It kind of helps with like the step process as you're lifting. That way you have like different levels. Also, like I said, you can flip this thing upside down and just kick it up under a car. It works really good. Just turn it into like a triangle almost. And then these like stabilizer struts are also very handy. Our fire department has them. Valmy has them. So you'll see these come out not very often, but they're there. They work pretty good. Typically what these things look like is the bottom of them have like a claw or like some sort of like way for it to like stick into the ground, like an anti-slip feature. And then the top of these things will kind of be like these two little teeth looking things. And, or some of them have just like one point, one like needle looking thing. So the way these things are supposed to work is you use these like straps and you attach them to the bottom and across to the side so that the way the bottoms can't kick out from the vehicle. And then you find a purchase point at the top to like set these struts into. And all it's supposed to do is stop the vehicle from like rolling on you. They work really good if you know how to use them and you train on them appropriately. But we don't carry them on the ambulance. So just make sure your vehicle's stabilized before you go to make an entry into it. Don't try to lift the car like this guy. That's how you hurt your back. So we have a lot of expensive tools that can lift vehicles. So don't be that guy. So these are typical extrication tools. So on the far right is, they call them cutters. The middle one are like spreaders, where that's like the jaws of life that most people know. And then the one on the far left is called a ram. So what we have is called a combi tool. So it's a mixture of the one on the far right and the one in the middle. So again, like I said, the one that we have is just enough to get you out of trouble. It's not going to do anything super great, but it's going to do a couple of things pretty good, if that makes sense, right? So all of these tools are specialized for like doing their job. And there's like 100 different companies out here, like Hurst, Tomatra, a bunch of different companies that make these different equipment. So we carry Hurst tools here. So we have the Hurst combi tool in our truck. They work really good. The batteries are, they hold up pretty well, but they also have batteries that have like cords, so you can like plug them into generators and use them that way too. So, but that's what we carry on our truck. So they do exactly what they look like they do, right? So like the ones on the far right, the cutters are used for like cutting your posts, like A post, B post, C post. If you're good and you can get up under it, they can cut like brackets on your seats. You can try to cut like freaking pedals with it, but typically you can't get that thing down in there far enough. That they make like specialized pedal cutters that are like this big. It's got like a little baby cutter on there, so you can stick it in there and cut pedals. And then the spreaders are for like opening doors, opening the hoods. You can use it like in the dash if you need to, and like try to roll the dash. But we also have this fancy tool called the ram, which is really good at freaking opening stuff up. So you can stick that on like the kick panel of the car, and that's how you can like roll a dash. If you need like a big roll on a dash, you can stick that down there in the kick panel of the car and make a couple of cuts and then roll the dash out from away from patients. So some additional things that we need to be worried about. So life over limb, right? So that's going to determine how this extrication is going to go. If I have a patient that's completely stable, maybe they got a broken leg, broken arm, something simple that really doesn't require a lot, I'm looking at more of a controlled extrication, right? I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make sure that everything's done right. I'm going to use the tools to their best ability to make sure that all the cuts that I'm making are purposeful, right? With a rapid extrication, I'm trying to get the patient out of a car. They're in some sort of life-threatening injury. They're in a life-threatening situation. The car's on fire, whatever that may be. I need to get them out. So life over limb, right? Your back might be broke, and me snatching you out of this car might cause you not to be able to walk again, but your car was on fire, and I need to get you out of the car, so you're still allowed to talk about it, right? Always try before you pry. Don't go cutting on cars when the door's unlocked. Like,
How many of those have you ran into?
quite a few. Again, people get excited in these situations. Like, try to like be level-headed about it and think about everything that's going on. But pretty simple. You just walk up to the car and it's like, click, right? Like, if the door opens, I don't need to cut the door, right? So, try before you pry, and then breaking glass. If you are breaking glass, protect yourself, protect your patient. You don't want to bust glass all over your patients. Same thing with your partners. Like that guy did to my dad. He just ran up and busted this glass, fell all over my dad. Now my dad's got freaking glass all in his shirt and stuff. Let people know, breaking glass, bust windows. Let people know what you're doing before you do it. And then don't cut before you check. Like I said earlier, you need to check behind all of your posts and pillars before you go to cutting on them. Make sure you're not cutting into some sort of like gas chamber or like cylinder, airbag, whatever. Make sure you look before you cut. So, cool. Short, sweet, simple. Any questions? We're going to wear our appropriate PPEs, which has done call me stupid. When I talk about stuff. That's the most important part. All right. The boss lady back. She going to be mad.
So what was the call originally?
Sheriff's Department thing, turned into us thing, that turned into a refusal thing, and then turned into not a refusal thing.
So a whole bunch of drama. Sounds like.
Alright. Yeah. Good job. You all have 3 stars. Yeah, I was trying to see that. I was trying to find it. Tools.
Call simulator.